Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Bhakti Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. And Govardhan ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Yeah, seeing all these lamps, I remember we were once at Parvati's home, Sanjay Parvati and his Giridhari, his father, Kamala Sundari at their home, and there was a candle burning. Radhanath Swami was there, and a bunch of devotees were there. A lot of devotees were there. And there was a candle burning, and this brahmachari, he went out to put out the flame, and his chadar caught on fire in front of everybody. I mean, it wasn't like a big dramatic thing, but he had to kind of, had to be careful. It's dangerous. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th Canto, Liberation, that's the title. Chapter 1, King Sudyumna becomes a woman. Text 42. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we ended on which verse? Does anyone remember? 33. So I'll just read 33, and then when we get to 42, we could recite together. Tata urdvam vanam tadvai purusha varjayanti hi sa chanuchara sam. We already read that one actually. 34 is the next one. Atatam ashramabhashe chaditim pramadotamam stribir padivitam vrikshya chakame bhagavan Buddha. Translation. Sudyumna had been transformed into the best of beautiful women who excite sexual desire, and was surrounded by other women. Upon seeing this beautiful woman loitering near his ashram, Buddha, the son of the moon, immediately desired to enjoy her. The beautiful woman also desired to accept Buddha, the son of the king of the moon, as her husband. Thus Buddha begot in her womb a son named Pururava. Is that our famous? Yeah, I think it is. I heard from reliable, quite exciting family lineage, Pururava and his I guess his mother and his. It comes up in the 9th canto later, Pururava, then in the 11th canto. It's quite dramatic. Thus Buddha begot in her womb a son named Pururava. I heard from reliable sources that King Sudyumna, the son of Manu, having thus achieved femininity, remembered his familial spiritual master, Vasiṣṭha. Upon seeing Sudyumna's deplorable condition, Vasiṣṭha was very much aggrieved. Desiring for Sudyumna to regain his maleness, Vasiṣṭha again began to worship Lord Shankar, Śiva. O King Parīkṣit, Lord Śiva was pleased with Vasiṣṭha. Therefore, to satisfy him and keep his word to Pārvatī, Lord Śiva said to that saintly person, "Your disciple Sudyumna may remain a male for 1 month, and a female for the next. In this way, he may rule the world as he likes." Purport. The word Gotrajaha is significant in this connection. Brahmins generally act as spiritual masters of 2 dynasties. One is their disciplic succession, and the other is the dynasty born of their semen. Both descendants belong to the same Gotra or dynasty. In the Vedic system, we sometimes find that both Brahmins and Kshatriyas and even Vaishyas come in the disciplic succession of the same rishis. Because the Gotra and dynasty are one, there is no difference between the disciples and the family born of the semen. The same system still prevails in India society, especially in regard to marriage, for which the Gotra is calculated. Here the word Gotrajaha refers to those born in the same dynasty, whether they be disciples or members of the family. Text 40. Thus being favored by the spiritual master, according to the words of Lord Śiva, Sudyumna regained his desired maleness every alternate month, and this way ruled the kingdom. Although the citizens were not satisfied with this. Purport. The citizens could understand that the king was transformed into a female every alternate month, and therefore could not discharge his royal duty. Consequently, they were not very satisfied. O King, Sudyumna had 3 very pious sons named Utkala, Gaya, and Vimala, who became the kings of the Dakshinapata. All right, now text 42. Please repeat after me. Tataha parinate kale pratishtana pati Prabhu pururavasa utsraja gam putraya gato vanam tata parinate kale pratishtana pati Prabhu pururavasa utsraja gam putraya gato vanam tata parinate kale pratishtana pati Prabhu pururavasa utsraja gam putraya gato vanam tata parinate kale pratishtana pati Prabhu pururavasa utsraja gam putraya gato vanam Okay, sure. Any online devotees want to chant? All right. Tataha, thereafter. Parinte, kale, when the time was ripe. Pratishtana patihi, the master of the kingdom. Prabhu, very powerful. Pururabase, unto Pururava. Utsraja, delivering. Gam, the world. Putraya, unto his son. Gataha, departed. Vanam, to the forest. Translation. Thereafter, when the time was ripe, when Sudyumna, the king of the world, was sufficiently old, he delivered the entire kingdom to his son Pururava and entered the forest. Purport. According to the Vedic system, one within the institution of Varna and Ashram must leave his family life after he reaches 50 years of age. Panchashad udvam vanam vrajet. Thus Sudyumna followed the prescribed regulations of Varnashram by leaving the kingdom and going to the forest to complete his spiritual life. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto, 1st chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled King Sudyumna Becomes a Woman. Om Gyanativedandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshulanmaditam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karitavachalam Bangam Nangayate Girim Yokipatamaham Vande Shri Ganandini Tadanam Bancha Kapdribhishcha Kripasandevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gauda Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. This is quite a unique account found within the Srimad Bhagavatam chapter here, in which King Sudyumna becomes a woman. When he was born, his father was hoping that he was, he was first born as a girl, right? Am I right? Yeah. So he's born as a girl, and his father was hoping that he had a boy. Sometimes that happens, and people, they hope that they had a boy or hope that they had a girl, and they have the opposite. It's common nowadays as well. It's actually a big thing within India nowadays. There was so much abortion going on in recent days because the women were finding out they were having girls and they wanted boys. Does anyone remember why they were so disturbed upon having girls? What is it? Yeah, dowry. Means they have to give a large sum of money, later on in life, and they didn't like that idea. So there's so many abortions going on. So at one point the government just stopped allowing people to know whether it was a boy or girl. So whether you want to look at that, or whether you want to look at people, they find out it's a girl, or they find out it's a boy and they're unhappy, but they still let the child, the child's still born, and they lament it, whatever it may be. This was happening a long time ago, and it's happening now for different reasons. People are lamenting the different types of male or female they're having. So anyways, he was wanting to have a boy, but it was a girl. So then through some mystic power, the girl was transformed into a boy. And he grew up as a boy and is living his life, and he became King Sudyumna. And he happened to wander into a forest where Lord Śiva and Durga, or Pārvatī, were there. Apparently it was supposed to be a secluded forest, and King Sudyumna and his buddies didn't get the memo, but they went in there, and Lord Śiva and Pārvatī, as Srila Prabhupada would sometimes they're enjoying there, supposed to be alone. And a similar thing happened in the past, where Pārvatī was extremely embarrassed. A similar thing happened in the past. So Lord Śiva came up with a idea that if this ever happens again, somebody ever happens to wander into the wrong forest again, then immediately they'll become female. So that's what happened. King Sudyumna and all of his associates they were female again. So yes, from girl to boy, and then again back to, I guess at that point, a man. Excuse me. Girl to boy, and then at that point back into a woman. Or to a woman. And from Lord Shiva's benediction he gave, or that particular, if you want to say benediction or curse or whatever, what would you call it? His promise to his wife, based on his promise to his wife Pārvatī, that's what happened. And it wasn't going to change. He was just going to stay like Sudyumna was just going to stay like that as a woman. So his guru, understanding his condition and how this was not voluntary, it wasn't voluntary. It's not that he was wanting to do this, become a woman, but it was involuntary. And that he wanted to become a man again. So he worshipped Lord Shiva. And worshiping Lord Shiva, Shiva was very pleased. And he said, all right, I need to fulfill the promise of Pārvatī, my good wife. Don't mess with Pārvatī. Don't mess with Durga. I need to fulfill the promise of my wife. And because you worship me and you satisfied me, I'll also fulfill your promise. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to let Sudyumna, he'll be a woman for 1 month and he'll be a man for next month. And in this way, he'll rule the kingdom. Quite unique, right? Never heard about that before. And alongside of all this, before this benediction, before this situation where he was 1 month, Sudyumna now as a woman became infatuated with Buddha, who is the son of, the moon? King of the moon. Became infatuated, became attracted. And Buddha also became attracted to Sudyumna, who was, as the Bhagavatam says here, became extremely beautiful, and that people were, just completely attracted to her. So they had 3 children, and so he's going back and forth, and then he had this thing where he's going back and forth, and then he's ruling the kingdom like that. And then when he hit 50, as Prabhupada states here, Panchashat Urdhvam Vanam Vrajet, which those kind of nearing 50 or kind of nearing 50, or maybe they are 50 or over 50, they could feel some pressure reading such statements. I mean, if someone's in their 20s or something, they think, all right, when I hit 50, we'll retire, but if you're not like nearing 50, you probably don't feel that pressure so much. But if you are nearing 50 or 50 or past 50, you might think, okay, there's a little pressure here. How do I process this instruction from Srila Prabhupada? Like Srila Prabhupada said, the beginning of the youth of old age is 40. That's the youth of old age. So you might, when you're nearing 40 or 40, you hear that, and you think, all right, the youth of old age. There you go, Prabhupada said it. So this idea of 50, a lot of people nowadays would think very young, like how can you retire at that age and so on, but that's the Vedic thing, to go to the forest or give up one's, the duties they've been doing throughout their life and just take the full Krishna consciousness. So that's what he did. And when the time was ripe, the time was ripe, he retired and entered the forest to complete his spiritual life. So it's quite a unique account in the Srimad Bhagavatam and in probably all religious books or literature. So the question is, for all of you, what lessons can we learn from this? someone like to volunteer their thoughts to the assembly of the devotees? We have to have a mic passed around.
One thing I was just thinking is like they should have had a map or something.
A what?
A map.
They forgot their GPS.
Yeah.
They should have. Yeah, I mean, like I said, they didn't get the memo. Don't go to that forest.
Yeah.
You know, somehow or other they didn't get that. So be careful which forest you wander in. Now we have the concrete jungle. Be careful what aspects of the concrete jungle you wander in. Yes. Okay. Any other?
We can see or learn how the Guru is very merciful and will come and save a disciple who's gotten himself into trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Guru did help him. And someone might say, well, what type of help was that? Because he wanted to fully go back to his situation of being a male. But I guess he got half of his desire fulfilled. Again, it's quite a interesting account. But yeah, the Guru did help. That's true. In the awkward situation. Yes, Keshava Priya.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice. It's a very unique verse and situation, like you said. So I was just thinking about, it's a training, at least for me, to accept all the situation which may seem to be inconvenient as a mercy of Krishna, and accepting it and doing the duties without looking at the external so-called circumstances. Even though it's a body of a man or woman, it's just accepting as Krishna's blessing and performing our duties under that right situation.
Yeah, it's definitely a lesson in tolerance, and that he was put in a very awkward situation that he didn't want to be in. You could imagine sometimes devotees feel they have a hard time in their spiritual lives for this reason or that reason, or whatever the reason may be. But you could imagine Govardhan goes out on Sankirtan or something and wanders in the wrong forest, and he's
He's turned into a professional wrestler.
Professional wrestler. So it's a lesson in tolerance, that there may be so many awkward situations or things that happen in our life, and just have to kind of carry on. That's okay.
I have a question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I just, it's Panesha Lakshmi, I also had a thought. Just thinking about his situation, it's interesting that he didn't preach to him at that time, right? He wasn't, what I noticed, that he wasn't ready to be taught about, Sudyumna, is that his name?
Yes.
He wasn't, he could have given him the lecture about you're not this body and all this kind of stuff, but he didn't. He kind of took him where he was at. He was still in these throes of trying to, basically he was still attached to the body and his bodily conception. But eventually we see by the end of his life, after going through this, he realized that, he retired to the forest. So I think for us, and also with this last purport that you were speaking about, that at the age of 50, that you need to leave your family and this whole thing. I think it's important for us to not take things just point blank, just as set in stone. Srila Prabhupada was very, very expert about time, place, and circumstance. And my Guru Maharaj also says that we should meet somebody where they are at and try to give them Krishna consciousness in the way that they can digest and understand. So I think this is, that was what the message is that I get, understanding, what little understanding I have with Srila Prabhupada's mood and mission.
All right, thank you. Yeah, there's an ideal standards of Krishna consciousness and general process of Krishna consciousness, and then there's people's ability to follow it. So we may not be able to follow everything, but we shouldn't resent the idea. We shouldn't have anything against the idea of these high ideals. And if, due to circumstance, we honestly cannot follow certain things, then that may be the case. But that's the question that is before us. Am I not following something just because I really cannot do it due to circumstances, or am I not following it because I'm trying to skate around the instruction? So that's something everyone has to themselves answer honestly before their spiritual master and before Krishna. Just like, for example, there's this wonderful quote from Srila Prabhupada, which I'll share with you. And he is saying here that, anyways, Sriveda Prabhu, you had something? I'll read my quote in a minute. Just like it was brought up, there's a sense of accepting one's fate or destiny. Okay, he was a girl, and then boy, and then woman again, and then girl. So it was obviously an awkward situation. And somehow or other he fell into that. So within our lives, we see that there are certain things, even if you want to say astrologically speaking, we have a certain body, we have a certain mind, we have certain inclinations. And of course, I'm not relating this completely to this Sudyumna, it's different. But in principle, there is certain things that are more or less like destined to happen to us. So in other words, there's certain strengths and weaknesses we may have. Now, it's not advised to say, okay, well, I'm a person who's just in the mode of ignorance. Sorry. That's how I am. I'm in the mode of ignorance. That's not a good policy. Like Brahmachari joins a temple and he says, sorry, I'm not a morning person. I'm just in the mode of ignorance. I'm dirty by nature. I'm angry. Can't do anything about it. Sorry. That's not good. So there has to be some endeavor. Even though we may have so many things that are going against us, we have to try to strive to overcome those things. So it's like a double thing going on. Now, in relation to that, I'll just read this quote, which I hope is connected to some degree. But so this is Srila Prabhupada's quote. I understand that there are only 3 persons at Boston. This is in relation to the mode of ignorance, and I can't try harder, I can't endeavor more, and just kind of accepting that. But each of you can work for 300 persons. So it is not the numerical strength that works, but it is Krishna consciousness that works. A Krishna conscious person is never tired of working. And the symptoms I can see in you. as you want to be overloaded with work. This is a test of how one is advancing in Krishna consciousness. Nobody becomes tired but wants to work more and more. Your godbrother Satsarup also told me the same thing, that he may be overloaded with typewriting work. Similarly, Govindadas and Gaurasundar also want to be overloaded with work. So your examples are great encouragement for an old man like me. I have got the same spirit of being overloaded with Krishna-conscious work, but physically I am not as strong as you are, young boys and girls. You can pray to Krishna that I may get your strength to serve the cause of Krishna consciousness. Anyways, 3 people do the work of 300 each. So this idea of, oh, that's just how I am. So, Dravida Prabhu, you wanted to say something?
But Vanaprastha, I think that was mentioned after 50 and like that, and that comes up again and again. In the modern, say in America, one of the problems with trying to follow all that strictly, I'm not saying it shouldn't try to do it, is that a lot of it depends on the support of the larger community, and in this case, it's always yes, and the husband should they should take Vanaprastha, and then at 50 he can go take sannyas or something like that. I think that's it. But that's predicated on the idea of having an older son who's ready to take care of the mother, right? But if you have an atomized society where the son is going to university 3,000 miles away, and he has a career in mind and all of these different things. So in the Vedic culture, when you have a much more agrarian society and there's people in the village, they stay there, then it's much more practical. But I think that's one of the things that we've noticed. You go to Alachua and you see a lot of guys who otherwise you would think would take Vanaprastha, but they're not taking Vanaprastha, and that's one of the reasons why, is that it's not feasible. In fact, that was a rule. I think when the devotees wanted to take sannyas, they said, okay, but you have to make provisions for your wife that she doesn't become just a burden on the society. And I remember hearing Keshava Bharati, not Keshava Bharati,
Kadamba
Kanana, yeah, who said that when he was ready to take sannyas, he had to think about business much more than he had when he was actually just a temple president, because he had to have something for his wife to support his wife, so he arranged for her whole business that she could then have support. He had no older children grown up. So it's a little difficult to strictly follow all of these things, although the desire should be there to do it.
Yeah, I mean, Srila Prabhupada would stress that especially people Brahmanically inclined men should take sannyas. But for everyone else, mostly Srila Prabhupada would stress Vanaprastha as a fine platform to be on. Retiring from active work and dedicating oneself fully to Krishna with one's wife. So that's fine. But yeah, it does become a little complicated with how things are set up in the modern world. Still, we have conviction that Srila Prabhupada wouldn't want the sannyas ashram to die in America. It's kind of, what do you want to say? What's close to dead? The sannyas ashram in America. Yeah, like for example, within the last 20 years, there has been, I think, about 4 American sannyasis coming up from America, all Prabhupada disciples for the most part, and a few of them spend most of their time in India. So most of the sannyasis are coming up from India and Africa and so on. So somehow or other, although it's challenging this and that, I mean, you also have the factor of so many people divorcing, living single men, so it's not exactly a sense of them taking care of their wife and their children at that point, I guess. So there's a lot of factors to consider, but somehow or other, all the men out there who are in a situation where they can take sannyas, at least not, maybe not now, but over time, please do. Prabhupada really liked that, and he really wanted it. Any other question or comment, Chad?
Hare Krishna. Actually, along with what
This
kind of
better
we're
be
talking
this
about.
better be a really good one, Chad.
A really good one? Well,
Yeah.
it's a good question. I don't know if it's good. So it's Sudyumna. He was also a woman, right? Part of the month, and then a man. During the when he was a woman, you said he had a family and kids. So how did he actually work out the situation where he decided to take sannyas, or not sannyas, but vanaprastha and go in the forest? Did it say anything about? Did I miss something?
When I'm chanting my japa today, I'm going to be thinking about this. Okay.
Okay.
No. Well, yeah, you didn't miss anything. It didn't explicitly state, but I don't know if like while he was a man, he was thinking, okay, let me go out to the forest, and then he took off, and then he was out in the forest, and he transformed a woman, and back and forth in the forest. I'm not sure, maybe. But whatever the case, whether he was transforming from a man to a woman, going back and forth in the forest, he or she or they decided, Sudyumna, he decided to, that's it. I'm going to the forest, and I'm going to get very serious about my Krishna consciousness. And again, it's really the principle, because someone may say, okay, it may be true due to circumstances you cannot go full on in Krishna consciousness and move into a temple or this or that or whatever it may be. But, or take sannyas, you may not be able to do that due to certain circumstances or limitations or whatever it may be. There's so many things going on. So, but the principle is that we have to become more serious in our Krishna consciousness. And at one point, we should give up working for money. We have to make that plan. That I am not, at one point, I'm going to stop making money, and I'm going to dedicate all of my time for direct activities of Krishna consciousness. We have to make that plan. We make so many plans. We want to save up so much money for our children or college fund, this, that, so many different things, buy a house in Mayapur, whatever people are doing. But we have to make that plan. And better make it early in life and plan for it relatively early in life, and not work perpetually, because so many other things could be done in Krishna consciousness. So, yeah. What's the retirement age in America now? 68 years old. If you push it till 75, you'll get more, right? Social Security or something like that. Parīkṣit, she had an experience. She was working with the government here. Our wonderful Parīkṣit, good example. She did what she had to do circumstantially. She had to do, she had to work. She had to support herself. She didn't have anybody to support her. So worked. And then she retired. And in her experience, she would see some of these people who would push their retirement. Like, they just keep on working. And she said she had the experience that many of them pushing the age of their retirement. Right when they retired, shortly after that, they expired, passed away. But she decided to retire relatively early and dedicate herself fully to the service of Sri Sri Radha Dari. So for many years, she's been, even before that, she was every day, dressing Srila Prabhupada and making sweets and so on. But now she's on the altar, good amount of time serving the deities. So. Good example. All right. Any last thing? All right. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.